strings and get them off each other's backs. There was so much greater danger waiting to attack. Fight for your values and fight for your friends. Fight through this blight, find the light at the end. Through the age of the dragon, the people will talk of the day they were saved by a hero named Hawk. Hawk, 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 Hawk. Just a lonely refugee or champion arrived. Round shores of Ferelden fade to Kirkwall's buzzing hive. Rose above the poverty and rose above the pain. My friend became the savior of the white city of chains. Fight for your values and fight for your friends. Fight through this blight, find the light at the end. Through the age of the dragon, the people will talk of the day they were saved by a hero named Hawk. Hawk, Hawk, close my weary eyes under choking clouds of ash and darkest dust. The silver kiss of sleepless longings. I can feel these broken clouds begin to rust. But when the end finally comes, I won't despair. I'll just keep on hoping I might see you there. Try to keep a blank page, but these memories, they flood my mind with grief. Faces lost forever, and the guilt of feeling some kind of relief. But when the end finally comes, I won't despair. I'll just keep on hoping I can see you there. This one twisted metal falls. I can hear the demons tearing down the walls. In the face of so much hate and cruelty. In my mind's eye, my angel's all I see. When the end finally comes, I won't despair. I'll just keep on hoping I might see you there. see your ghost. Left you too soon. So young at heart, yet you feel so much older under your favorite full moon. So trust a little time, so to be afraid. Just a little time, gonna make it fade. Your heart is gonna shine and you're gonna make us proud. Send a little light, gonna shine for you. Things will be alright, gonna get you through. Searching for a silver lining on this cloud. Amnesia, you forgot your name. Don't let your spirit fade away. Amnesia, you've been through such pain, but your little heart is growing stronger every day. Hey, don't fade away. Don't fade away. Amnesia, you've got this burden to bear now, hiding away from the world. But deep down behind that disguise that you wear now, I see a lost little girl. So trust your little signs, don't you be afraid. Just a little time, gonna make it fade. Your heart is gonna shine and you're gonna make us proud. Send a little light, gonna shine for you. Things will be alright, gonna get you through. Searching for a silver lining on this cloud. Amnesia, you forgot your name. Don't let your spirit fade away. Amnesia, you've been through such pain, but your little heart is growing stronger every day. Hey, don't fade away. Don't fade away. Under your favorite full moon. Under your favorite full moon. Amnesia, you forgot your name. Don't let your spirit fade away. Amnesia, you've been through such pain, but you're growing stronger every day. Amnesia, you forgot your name. Don't let your spirit fade away. Amnesia, you've been through such pain, but your little heart is growing stronger every day. Hey, don't fade away. Don't fade away. Don't fade away.
How you doing? Yes, I hear you. And I'm trying to log into Twitch and I'm trying to log into Moolah. Okay, I'm in Moolah. Oh, okay. I thought you weren't going to be in the cavern while you're doing this, but...
When the world is on your shoulder.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay. I'm waiting for my Twitch code, but I'm heading to the hood.
Fade away.
Not yet.
What is the measure of the common man? No deeds to share, gifts to compare. When all I have it rests on ticking hands, I have my ways, descent delay, and I have tried to make you see a brighter hue. But deep down I know I'll be forever blue. And there's a blackness inside me that's breaking through. But deep down I know I'll be forever blue. Forever blue. Nobody wants to learn a thing these days. An endless coil of waste and toil. Empires are built upon the ashes of the weak and frail, those doomed to fail. And I've been trying to set free a lighter you. But deep down I know I'll be forever blue. And there's a blackness inside me that's breaking through. But deep down I know I'll be forever blue. Forever blue. Forever blue. My colors will release the bonds again. I'm going to do all I could have been. My colors will release the bonds again. I'm going to do all I could have been. All of these changes as you see, baby, it's all just chemistry. You've made a monster out of me.
Alright, I am now logged into the hood. I'm in the hood, and I'm in Twitch.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close down my game client
Alrighty.
so that I can open up the other version. Hello, darling.
Rusted turnstiles, we persevere. The wheels of conflict still move and turn. The day the world died, nothing was learned. And the future's a tunnel stretching endlessly into nothing, stumble in the black. And the light at the end is but a treachery. It will blind you and force you back. The day the world died, we kindle doom. We burned the outside, took to the gloom, but history's lessons are snubbed and spurned. The day the world died, nothing was learned. And the future's a tunnel stretching endlessly into nothing, stumble in the black. And the light at the end is but a treachery. It will blind you and force you back. Once more we fight, from peace we turn. The day the world nothing was left. Gold headlights thread through dirty streets. Our shadows dance beneath our feet. Yeah, under the shimmer of a blue moonbeam, pick up the pieces of a brittle dream. 'Cause I lost myself somewhere along the line, but I push it through the pain and I feel fine. I'm on my way, I'm back to the start. I've been waiting so long. I'm on my way, I opened my heart and it made me so strong. I'm on my way now, I'm on my way, I'm on my way now, I'm on my way. All I have done, all I have seen, all of the places I have been. I tried to fix what could not be repaired. No point in wishing now that life was fair. And the stars are blazing in the sky tonight, and the constellations burst a beam their light. I'm on my way, I'm back to the start. I've been waiting so long. I'm on my way, I opened my heart and it made me so strong. I'm on my way now, I'm on my way, I'm on my way now, I'm on my way. And all the hurt we felt and all the joy we taste, the lessons that we learned will never go to waste. I'm on my way, I'm back to the start. I've been waiting so long. I'm on my way, I opened my heart and it made me so strong. I'm on my way, I'm back to the start. I've been waiting so long. I'm on my way, I opened my heart and it made me so strong. I'm on my way now, I'm on my way, I'm on my way now, I'm on my way, yeah, I'm on my way.
Hello. Having technical issues at the moment. Oh, by the way, can everyone hear me over the stream? Okay.
They're saying yes. And yes, we have birds, Ro. Here they are.
That's why the music's still going, by the way, is because I'm trying to bring in a game window and it's not cooperating at the moment.
You can keep your filthy scuba, it makes our bellies bleed. 'Cause when we raise our flag into another dead dragon, there is just one drink we need, Northmead. Northmead. So another bead and another bead, another bead, till you fall.
Untitled lives too.
Oh, there we go. I think.
After the long hard days of hunting and of war, our throats are tired and thirsty and our bodies drenched in gore. But we won't waste our evenings feeling tired and feeling spent. We perk right up when we breathe in that wholesome honey scent. That's idyllic brandy, too fruity for these tongues. You can keep your fancy out to wine, it tastes like Horker dung. Almora Blue tastes great to you, but here we like it plain. Just fill my mug with a mighty jug of honey, heart and grey. Drinking mead in the halls of Whiterun, the maidens and the men. We swig our brew until we spew, then we fill our mugs again. You can keep your filthy skooma, it makes our bellies bleed. Cause when we raise our flagon to another dead dragon, there is just one drink we need, Nordmead. Nordmead.
Carol.
Actually, it's Viking. Say. Okay, and I'm killing the music now. Because I think I've got, yeah, that's showing.
Holy smokes. There's lots of people here today. Oh my goodness. Thank
Yeah.
you all for coming.
Okay. Now, what's happening today, by the way, is that I'm starting out in Urusisi because we're going to be visiting the Garden of Darebo. And the only way I can do that is in this version of the game.
Do you mean Myst 5? End of Ages?
Actually, no. This is Urusisi. Well, technically it's Urusisi, but if you follow along in the stream window, you'll see what I mean. Let's see. Go with Sunny Cleft.
Yeah, today we are continuing our tour of the Garden Ages, as Laurie will explain, and then we'll move on to 2 more ages.
Well, if we have the time, that's a big consideration.
Myst 6. I think this is the most you'll get out of the Myst series.
Actually, that's not guaranteed. Cyan has said that that there are tentative plans to perhaps go back to it one day.
Holy smokes! Wow.
Yeah, so there is Myst as a series, not really, not necessarily Uru. Anyway, while I'm working my way there, we have the pre-show announcements that we haven't gone through yet.
Alrighty, everyone. I'm assuming that you're all logged into Twitch TV/LWF58. Oh my gosh, there goes Larry. He just descended into the abyss. I'm a little worried about you. I've never seen that before. And please also make sure you all have buddied MiroBot. You can type /add buddy 32319. It's also a good idea to buddy Larry and me. When Larry comes back, you'll have access to his key number. So as I said, we're going to be continuing with the Garden Ages. If we have time, we'll move on to 2 more ages. And if you if you happen to get separated from the group, you can just PM the word find CT or find Larry to MiroBot, and you'll be instantly linked to us.
Now, this is the inside of the volcano crater. By the way, some of the interesting features here, since I'm passing through, you'll see me standing next to a steam vent. It was on one of these steam vents that Atris tried to make an electrical generator that was steamed powered in order to charge batteries to bring down and use in the cleft. He miscalculated the pressure, and it wound up blowing a hole in the ground. If you look over here, there's the dagger that from Riven that Catherine had created just to mess with Gen and his followers. And so when of course the age collapsed, this is where that dagger ended up after it fell into the starry expanse. And then I was talking about the hole that Atris blew in the ground, and this is it right here. The explosion wound up blowing a hole into this natural cave, which also wound up opening up into the great one of the tunnels leading to the great shaft. Gen thought this was a more convenient way to get into to the great shaft than going all the way to Anna's cave, where she had worked her way in, and therefore cleaned up most of the rubble, but you can still see a few of the rocks lying around. I presume that everyone here has played Myst 5 before, though. But I'm coming over here because
So what you've done, Larry, is you've somehow melded Myst 5 into Uro Complete Chronicles?
yeah, there's a tool for doing that. And this allows me to go to the Myst 5 Ages. However, this is our destination, Drc. Drc is one of a great many garden ages that were created by the Denis as places where they could go to get away from the cavern for a little while and get and kind of renew their souls. Say, and it's a fine garden if you like them dim and swampy. But the thing about it is that this light, for people who spent most of their lives living in a cave, would have been extremely soothing. Physically, the age is made up of 4 small islands that are set in a pond that matches their contours. The pond isn't very wide, and there's solid ground beyond it. The islands are connected by 4 arched bridges. Scattered across the landscape, there are tall standing stones. Let's see if I can get a look up at them. There we go. It is not known whether these are natural or were erected by somebody as monuments. The pond around the islands has a lot of algae floating on it, which you can see over here. And there are tall mushroom-like plants with twisty stems that are growing out of it. And let's see if we can find a good stand of those. Yeah, there's some off of this bridge. The ground appears to mostly be covered in moss, lichen, and sparse grass. This garden was used by both Yisha and Escher to direct people who tried to claim the stone tablet that bound the Baro to Denis. It's unknown who first placed the Drc linking books in the Ettertomanty of the Great Shaft. They could have been placed there by the Denis, but there is doubt about that because the shaft was closed down soon after it was made, and the Denis never traveled there again officially. Only Anna, Atris, and Gin used it when Anna showed them her old home, and again when Anna and Gin moved to the cleft after the fall of Denis. When Yisha took possession of Drc, she had her Baro install space-time bubbles with pedestals holding stone slates that controlled the locking mechanism for the master tablet. The bubbles exist simultaneously in multiple ages, showing yet again how linking devices created by the Baro often ignored the rules of the art followed by the Denis. Drc is home to a number of insects. They include 2 species of fireflies, and both are different from the Kyrie of Negalan or their relatives in Etterkimo. The first type glows a homogeneous gold color like the Kyrie and Chemo fireflies and congregate in clouds. In fact, there's one of them right there. By the way, those same insects can be found up in the cleft volcano, although I didn't look for them there. The second variety is a solitary firefly, which is smaller than the first type. Let's see, and there's one right over there, although he's disappeared again. Let's see if I can find another one. Here, there's one right in front of me. He's a quick little beggar. Drc also has butterflies fluttering around in it, which are also found up above in the volcano caldera. And there's one of them right there, if I can catch up with it. Ah, here he is. Those butterflies are differently colored, but are essentially the same as the butterflies that are found in Kadesh Tolesa in the empty vault, or at least they were at one time. Say, the difference between them is that these ones are mainly bluish and purplish in color, while the ones found in Kadesh Tolesa are red. Currently, I believe that both of them were imported from the age of Lakian. There's also a short-winged dragonfly that can be found somewhere in here. Let's see. Although he's a little harder to find, and because of a game glitch, he holds still in the air. Let's see. I don't think this is where I came from. There he is. So we're looking at him from the back. He's a rather peculiar looking little beastie with very short wings, no apparent legs, and a very and only a body that's only really two segments, a head and thorax and a tail. Drebo is also home to at least one species of bird that the Denis Zoological Society calls a variety of nightjar based on its call. But it's a shy bird, and no one's ever actually reported seeing one. And to give you an idea of what the land is like outside, let's go over and take a look at it. So here we are on the other side of the pond. And if we go over away from the pond itself, we just have the ground cover. The mushrooms just grow only in the pond.
Someone had a question for you about bug invasions. Do you have a second to answer it?
Yeah, because I'm going to be... this is it for Drebo, so I'm going to be closing down this program and logging back into Order.
Okay, can I ask the question? Or
Go right ahead.
Okay, I'll read it verbatim. Between fire ants and last year's murder hornets, I'm sure we're all aware of the dangers of invasive species. How did the Dani prevent this, since it seems that there has been some cross-age invasion, at least recently?
Okay, mostly it was by physically inspecting cargoes and the people who might have been linking. Although that wasn't really strict. To give you an example, there was pretty much no control over people going to private ages and back. But part of the job of the initial surveying teams that were sent across were to look for potential dangers that might become a problem later. That was specifically the job of the Guild of Healers. And then but I can tell you that in Dini history, that problem did indeed arise. There was one deadly plague that spread, or pandemic, which spread among the Dini Cavern because they missed a type of insect that was hitching a ride in some exotic wood that was brought in from an outside age. And it was because of that incident where a harmful insect got in that they moved the industrial districts that had been in the Dini Cavern into side caverns, and there forever afterward kept business and living spaces separate from each other.
So that's concept art for Darebo, isn't it?
Yes, this is concept art for Darebo, and okay, excellent. This was all, Jamie. This was all. This concept art was all released to the public by Cyan, and I collected it from a website. I forget. I keep forgetting the name, but Chiso dot something or other, if I recall correctly. Or something or other, Chiso, but it's got that word in the name of the website.
By the way, I want to welcome all the newcomers here. I see some fresh faces. There's Aberwar, and I'm scrolling down my list. Amadeo, Duncan Fletcher. Welcome. Till, oh gosh, Amisen Spiegel. Forgive my butchering of the German language. Magic Yoda, good to see you. Magic Yoda does special effects for events sometimes.
Light show. He specializes in light shows, and he's extremely good at it. Okay. Come on, you can go. There we are. Now, if I do this... You have to excuse me, I'm having to rearrange my screens after getting out of AutoCC.
I don't see any coffee mug, Larry.
That's because it's off camera. Okay, there we go. Now, if I... Okay, game, there you are. And let's move you here. And then I gotta resize it. Okay, there we go. Now I'm on screen. Okay, at this point, there's no point in me coming back to the neighborhood. I'm just going to go ahead and link to the bot.
Okay, if everyone can please PM the word link to Mirabot.
Okay, I did not anticipate winding up on top of the fountain.
Murphac has a sense of humor, I guess.
Okay, and we have new people here today?
Yes, we have some newcomers.
Okay, in that
First
case,
timers.
I'm going to go ahead and start us off from the very beginning.
Okay.
What we're going to do first off is run back to the very beginning of the age, to the Lincoln point. Because something I forgot to point out when we were here last time, but is that when you link in, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but the Lincoln point is one of Yisha's monograms. She was in the habit of marking a lot of the ages, especially the for the path of the hand, with her monogram when she altered them. Because I'm half convinced that she also has that thing tattooed on her lower back, I refer to it as Yisha's tramp stamp. And that's not the only place that she has it in this age. I'll be pointing it out again later on. Ederkemo was written early on during the Garden Binge of Denise Century 8100. King Kurith had abdicated in 6977, and a council made up of guild masters was ruling Denis after that. At that point in history, it appears that the council and other Denis elites decided to commission garden ages in order to gain popularity with the common people of Denis. Ages like chemo would have been a welcome break from the dullness of the Denis caverns. Copies of the linking books to the gardens were placed in public linking libraries such as the ones you can find in Bevan and Surrett-style neighborhoods. Chemo offered novelty with its constantly changing weather and themed planting areas, features that were not possible in the caverns. However, after a period of time, Chemo was retired and other gardens were substituted, such as Sogol and Dellen. Now, the blue-gray band that you see near the top of the canyon walls is another form of algae, and the creatures that you see hanging off the sides of the wall are eating it. Murphac, if you can, please, let's get back up on the platform so that the newcomers can see them and get pictures. The animals that are spaced along the cliff rim were dubbed Kianolint by explorers. They feed on the algae up there by hanging from a modified tail sting as if it were a grappling hook. The name Kianolint is said to have been coined in mid-2003 when an explorer named Thanatos mentioned that they look like the bug that was inserted into Neo's belly button in The Matrix. Another explorer named Catherine thought that would make them Keanu Reeves' belly button lint, or Keanu lint for short. Chemo was designed to have different large plants in 4 main sections so as to offer the maximum diversity. This is the first district, and its main feature are called moss trees, so named because of the texture of their canopies. I'll hasten to say that most of the names assigned to the plants are ones that were created by the Denis Zoological Society or found in DRC documentation. These are not names that I came up with. Okay, now we should be up at eye level with the Keanu lints. And if you give Murphak a moment, he's got another trick he's going to pull so that you can see them better. Keanu lints have 10 eyes, by the way. There are 4 on the top, 2 on the front, and 4 on the bottom. And here we go. So you can now get a look at it from all sides. And this, okay, we didn't get both of them this time, did we? Oh yeah, there are 2 of them, by the way, inside the enclosure with us. One of them over here near the side, and of course the one in the middle. Although this time it's halfway. Murphak, could you please make the pillars invisible so that we can see this one over here? Scattered throughout the entire garden are rocks with a hidden character. If you watch them during a rain shower, you can see that they take on a metallic glint. This garden is not the only age where those rocks can be found. They also appear in Eddard Sogel. We're giving you a moment in case you want to take key photos of these things. And that should be time enough, so please take us back down again, Murphak. It appears that Yisha chose to use this age for propaganda purposes and had her Baro followers paint a number of petroglyphs here. I admit that propaganda is a harsh way of phrasing it, but it does seem to be the general idea, because the pictures were intended to make explorers think in certain ways about Denis society. Yisha stated openly that she hated her Dene heritage, and because of that, she tried to make explorers think that Dene was universally corrupt and cruel. One could think of it as if a person were telling you the story of Al Capone and his gang, and then saying, and this is what the United States was like throughout its entire history. She never tells of the many good points their society had. Over the years, explorers have asked the question, who drew the petroglyphs found here and in the other places around Dene? A number of guesses were made. The leading answer was that the Baro drew them, but others thought Yisha might have, since similar pictures are found on a series of notebooks that she left in the Great Shaft. The definitive answer was finally given to us by Richard Watson at a Mysterium convention. He verified that it was the Baro who drew the petroglyphs. There was once an explorer organization called the Baroglyph Study Group, which was a subdivision of a larger group called the Dene Linguistic Fellowship. Okay. Let's see where we are. Here we go. The group collected all of the Baro pictographs that they could find and tried to figure out what they meant. But the group had flaws. They apparently went into their studies with a number of preconceptions in mind and ignored anything that contradicted them. Some of the preconceptions seem to have been that 1. Yisha always told the truth. 2. That the Baro inscribed every pictograph found in the Dene Empire. 3. All elements of a pictograph must have a meaning. And 4. That the meaning of even simple elements must be deep and or complex. That resulted in them often overanalyzing the pictographs and sometimes drawing erroneous conclusions about them. It also resulted in them always interpreting the pictographs in ways that supported Yisha's teachings. As far as I can tell, they did not study the available documentation that would have given them more reliable clues about the purposes of the glyphs. For example, they identify every slave or prisoner in the glyphs as Baro, even though Nick White, a DRC interpreter who was assigned to Douglas Sharper, stated outright that the prisoners of Teledan and Rebek were not Baro. As an example of how far off the charts the BSG could get, let's take a symbol that is associated with the Dene, or I should say with the Baro. Let's browse.
Oh, by the way, if anyone has questions, go ahead and type your question in the text chat, and I'll make sure that Larry answers the question when he has a free moment.
Mm-hmm. Okay, if you look at the stream window for a moment, I've put up a Baro symbol. That symbol was called the Morning Eye by the Baroglyph Study Group. The Morning Eye is their name for a glyph that the Baro frequently drew either near or on their images of themselves. The symbol shows an open eye with 3 lines dropping from beneath it, and is obviously meant as a self-identification of their people. The 3 lines probably represent tear tracks, and overall the symbol could indicate sadness or despair. One of the founders of both the Denis Language Fellowship and the BSG, Count Domara, wrote this about it. This multi-layered symbol reifies a variety of ocular functions both on the physical and metaphysical level. It symbolizes physical sight. If the Baro existed as a slave class, they would have observed the Denis in every walk of life, and even while they were not seen or not meant to be seen themselves. It symbolizes moral sight. While the Denis either overlooked or thought little of the enslavement of Arotan peoples, the Baro were first-hand witnesses of the darker side of Denis and the injustices of slavery. And it symbolizes mourning over those very injustices. It is a powerful statement that the Baro chose this symbol to represent themselves. Even while the eye is weeping, it is wide open. Sadness and justice exist side by side. Though they were stripped of their freedoms and rights at every level, they could not be robbed of their freedom to look, to see, to observe. Self-representation, though the morning eye is both an self-representation through the morning eye is both an act of resistance, as the eye stares unflinchingly at its Denis oppressors, and an act of remembrance. The eye pays respect to the troubled and troubling history of the Baro. The fact that Domare wrote all of that about what is, in the end, a simple drawing of an eye with 3 lines below it shows how fanciful the group could be when they analyzed what they observed. There is absolutely no evidence or documentation to back up his conclusions. He let his imagination run wild, and it was probably more than a little bit tongue-in-cheek. But it was taken seriously. And still is to this day, by the way. Because of this, on the one hand, the group's methods and conclusions cannot be regarded as scientific or unbiased, and should be viewed with skepticism. On the other hand, they put a great deal of effort into noting and discussing every possible detail of the glyphs and produce some very good observations. Their work should not be discounted because it forms a very good basis for further research. You just can't take it at face value. I'm going to go over the pictographs here in the garden in the order that the BSG listed them, and read their notes first before giving my own opinion about them. We are now standing in front of a group of glyphs called the Fountain Sequence. The first one, which is all the way at the right, as you first enter the garden, is a depiction of Kadesh Telesa with tall trees, the sun and moon, the suspended vault, and other symbols which are unidentified. My own observation is that, yes, this is Kadesh Telesa. Several of the features of the age can be seen in it. The circle with the dot in it probably represents the sun of the age, and if you look at the glyph for the pyramid, you can see it repeated above that, with a line between it and the pyramid representing light traveling from the sun to the rotating lens atop the pyramid. There are 2 other circles in the painting, one of which could represent the moon or planet, whichever it might be, that is also visible in the sky of the age. The next glyph, and I'm going to move over there, is a glyph of an age called Rebek, which was never released by the DRC. The BSG said, "It is unclear what age this scene represents. One theory is that it represents Rebek, where the Baro were hunted for sport. It appears someone attempted to erase the scene from the rock wall. I have confirmed that that glyph does indeed represent the age of Rebek, where the Dini illegally brought Autotanti slaves and then hunted them for sport. It's important to remember that that was against Dini law. The Guild of Maintainers were hot on the trail of the slavers and would have caught them if the fall of Dini had not brought everything to a halt. With this enhancement, courtesy of Murphak, so that you can see everything clearer, you will see what look like tracks in the upper right that show hoofed feet and three-fingered handprints used to assist in walking or climbing. If correct, then that could lead to Yisha wanting the image defaced because it contradicts her hints that the Baros were imprisoned in Teledon and hunted in Rebek. Baro have 4 fingers and toes, although the drawing of themselves they painted here shows 3 of each.
Excuse me, Larry.
Mm-hmm.
Would you please remove that morning eye from Twitch? It's blocking the picture.
Okay. Actually, I was going to switch that anyway right now because I have something else to
much.
show. Let's see. Image. And where? I know I've got it here somewhere, so where? Phone.
And elsewhere in Chemo, there are some other pictographs of some Rebek creatures.
That's not here in Chemo. That's what I'm hunting for at the moment.
Oh.
And I always have the hardest time when I go looking for it. I'm positive that I put that in there. Hang on just a sec while I check and make sure. Garden. Every time I think I've got these things sorted out, okay, let's see. Teledon. Do I have it in the Teledon folder? Yes, I do. So if okay. So if I go up and then to Teledon, here we go. From the Teledon concept art, it seems apparent that the picture that I'm now showing on the stream side may have been the Autotanti that were brought here to be hunted. Those creatures, as you see, have long arms with 3 main fingers that are curved inward and could make them, and they have also stumpy feet, which look a bit like hooves, and therefore could have made the footprints that we see in the rock art. Also, if you look at the rock art, you will notice that the shape that's in the cage there matches this creature to a certain extent. And also, and if you look up above where there are two lying down with arrows and spears in them, it's also quite likely, or at least the general body shape seems to resemble these creatures a bit, to a certain extent at least. Which is why, at this point, I surmise that these are the creatures that were hunted on Rebek. Okay, now moving on to the next glyph, which was also scratched out. The BSG interpret this with a question mark as Agara Island on Denis. Next to the Rebek scene, this may be a representation of Denis, the island of Agara, although it is difficult to tell for sure. This scene also appears to have been erased from the rock wall. And this is one case in which they were dead wrong. The round glyph that was scratched out is also a depiction of the age of Rebek. It's an overview of the entire age. And I'm going to go ahead and bring up another image on the chat. The stream. After I get back to the right folder. Garden. There you are. Okay, and I'm bringing the image up now. This is what that rock art looked like before it was scratched out. This was included with... actually, it wasn't in the concept art. I got this from another explorer who was given game assets because he was trying to rebuild or he was trying to actually make Rebek, and he had Cyan support on it, and they gave him assets that had never been released to the public, and because I also have ties with Cyan and permission to do what I do, he was able to share it with me. So as you can see, Rebek was also contained within a canyon. So rather than an arch, as if it were a cave, those are the canyon walls that you see surrounding it. As a matter of fact, that's not the only view that we have, because Rebek had been in the works at Cyan when everything kind of fell out from underneath them and they had to shut down the game. So they had gotten as far as creating a clay model of the age. And so there you have a 3D image, or a 3D, a picture of a 3D version of Rebek. Shiloh, actually, I did speak with her, and she has a number of concepts from the game that she and I don't quite see eye to eye with. Therefore, it's better if I keep my hands out of it, because it's her show, and she's entitled to put it on the way she likes. Having me butting in, telling her that's wrong, is not a good thing. Getting back to the glyphs on the canyon, on the canyon wall here, I suspect that Yisha may have been the one who ordered the Baro to erase those two glyphs, or perhaps even did it herself. The reason being is that the Baro were inherently more honest about the way they depicted things than she may have wanted them to be, and therefore these glyphs might have given away that the story wasn't quite the one that she was telling.
I do remember from playing Myst 5 that she seemed very angry and very bitter on those video images she left.
Actually, yes. That it was in in her journals there that she admitted that she had come to hate her Denis heritage, and she had a rather unflattering thing or two to say about explorers in those recordings that she made. The line that comes to me specifically off the top of my head is something along the lines of, "How can I wait on such fools?" Okay, anyway, moving on. The next scene, of course, is Garrison, and the BSG said, "A depiction of the maintainer age Garrison with the well, tower, and fortress, the training wall, an ink beetle, a number of maintainer suits, and Baro slaves." And that was another case in which they definitely got things mixed up. It is indeed Garrison, and you can see the ink beetles, the main fortress, maintainers, and a training wall. The figures that look a little like robots are maintainers in heavy armor, which was used when first entering a new age in case the environment is unexpectedly hostile. Despite the claim made by the BSG that Baro are present, there are none of them in the figures that are drawn. They're just not done the way the Baro depicted themselves. And the morning eye symbol is nowhere to be seen. Instead, some of the figures are carrying sticks or weapons. The Baro never drew themselves with either. Because of that, I suspect that all of the figures here represent maintainers, some in armor, some not.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, the bitter and the angry bitter Yisha in Myst 5, and then, but here in Mula, she's very friendly. You know, she gives you a Relto book, and
Well,
so
you have to remember.
which Yisha was first
Okay,
chronologically?
uh, effectively,
It's
they were
8.6 again.
they were more or less overlapping, although she became more bitter as time went by. What had happened is that when Yisha set up the quest to free one Baro at a time, the thing is that the reason why explorers are called the Called uh, in several references is because explorers are attracted to the cavern by a specific Baro calling them and in a kind of touch to the soul. And that one explorer and that one Baro are kind of bound together for the duration until either the Baro is freed or the explorer gives up. And as far as I know, they can only make that call. This is purely a guess on my part, but I would say that the Baro could only make that call once. So if he or she was not freed by the explorer that they tried to attract, then that was it. And so Yisha got extremely frustrated with the fact that the number of Baro being freed was actually much, much lower than she had hoped for when she started the quest. And so and that was why, by the way, she also set up the quest to get the control of the golden tablet, because since her plan to free the Baro one by one was not working out, she decided to go for a method that would free them all at once. But that was another one which took a long time to play out, because a unknown number of people had attempted the quest, including her and Escher, and none of them succeeded until Richard A. Watson took on the quest and finally cleared it.
So does her hologram that appears in Relto, does that precede the bitter Yisha or
Well,
succeed
she
the bitter
recorded
Yisha?
she recorded that both of those before most of the explorers had taken the quest.
Ah, okay.
So the fact of the thing is that she was at they are recordings. Okay, the next glyph and the last in this sequence is a depiction of the age of Teledon with mushroom spores, internet-connecting bridges, harvesting machinery, the slave caves, and Baro slaves. Except that and that's the BSG, by the way. Yes, it's Teledan, and yes, you can see slaves, the slaves who were sent to Rebek, represented in this picture. However, if you note the design of the figures shown bound and the ones in the cage, and compare them to the way the Baro painted themselves, they don't match. Again, the Baro were more honest about the way they depicted things, and they did not show themselves in this scene. In her recorded speech in the Baro cave after the quest in Teledon is completed, Yisha does imply that Baro were the ones imprisoned in there. The prisoners in this glyph, however, have trapezoidal torsos and long legs, and the Bodros represent themselves as having short three-toed legs and long rounded torsos. And that's something we're going to see right now, because our next stop is the next glyph in the sequence, which is over on the other side of this gazebo. And here we have a picture of the way the Bodro portrayed themselves. The BSG called this the Bodro Gathering. Scene hidden in the bamboo forest behind the pavilion in the first garden depicts the morning eye, 2 rows of Bodro, and a line of 8 dots. So they didn't get very fanciful with that description. And this is where you notice, especially, that when the Bodro drew themselves, they often did have the morning eye symbol on or around themselves when they drew them. It's possible that this was meant to represent sadness or a sense of hopelessness. But this glyph is a prime example of how they drew themselves and should be compared with other glyphs to determine whether the Bodro are present in them or not. Okay, and I'm going to pause here for a moment to catch up with any questions that might have been asked. Were there any, Susan?
No, I didn't see any.
Jamie's asking what the little dots are at the bottom, and the answer to that one is there's 8 of those, and we don't know what they're for. Even the BSG didn't have any guesses. No, they're still there, but they're a kind of gray color, so they blend in with the rock a bit.
I don't know whether how cumbersome it would be for Merfolk to have a Barrow appear here in Chemo to compare him with the pictures. Uh-oh, I just got a call stack error.
Okay. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and move on then. And we're heading over to the door here in the age.
I guess Merfolk didn't like my request. Just kidding.
Nah, it's not that.
Oh, Jamie crashed too.
It's actually the way the Bodro drew themselves is not necessarily... never mind. There's a Bodro right in front of me now.
Thank you, Merfolk. You are awesome. A mischievous Barrow.
Okay, it looks like most of the group is not here. If you are not over where I am, just PM the bot, find Larry, and he'll put you on my location. Although it's possible that a lot of them crashed too, along with you. No, there's plenty of... Yeah, there's more people linking in, I think. In any case, looking at the painting on the wall next to the door, the Baroglyph study group didn't really have anything to say about this. They just call it unidentified. But the glyph appears to be a scene of Dni people with somebody of importance in the center. It matches the overall look of the floating sculptures that you find here and in Ederdelin. The arch above the central figure is similar to other arches found in other baroglyphs that represent being in a cave or cavern, and there is a Maintainer's Guild symbol above the head of the central figure. One of many possible theories that it might represent Runeareth and the Dni arriving in the cavern. However, that's one of a large number of ideas, and there's no evidence to tell which may be correct. The presence of the Maintainer's symbol rather than the Writer's symbol is also a point against it being Runeareth. But the only thing that's certain about that is that it does represent the Dni people for some purpose. And let's see. Yes, okay. If you all look at the stream window for a moment, I'm going to put a different version of that painting up, which makes the details easier to see. In this picture, of course, it's much easier to tell that that's a Maintainer's Guild symbol, as well as a lot of the details on the figures themselves that aren't as apparent when you're looking at the real thing. Okay, do we have most of the people back yet?
I'll look at my buddies list and see who is missing. There are a few missing. I'll put out a broadcast.
Sharmo, when you want to link to back, you want to just use the word link to the bot, or meet, MEET. That'll put you into the garden, and then you can use Find Larry to catch up with the group.
Someone's asking what they use to paint these. Is it paint? Is it chalk? It does look a bit chalky, but
Honestly, I couldn't
art.
tell you, but it's some of them have colors and some of them don't, so it's probably natural pigments made out of minerals and such. The way that ancient or humans used to do cave paintings in prehistoric days. Ochre would give you an orange-red color. The next glyph, which is to the left of the door, was called the Chemo Fish Riders by the BSG, and they said, depicts a figure riding skate-like animals, perhaps the fish for which Eder Chemo is named. And that was another time when they were so far off the mark that it isn't even funny. The pictograph that you see here represents the Kalo age and shows Kamkinta being ridden. Kamkinta were flying creatures that were used in competitive racing. The Kalo bar was named for the age, and it's suspected that the many viewers there were used to show images from the races. It is known that the DRC had books for Kalo, but environmental and budgetary concerns prevented them from releasing any. It was said that Kalo was constantly swept by hurricane-force winds that averaged 100 miles per hour. And I wonder, let me take a look and see if I have a picture of a Kamkinta handy. Okay, no, I do not have it in that folder, but if I go bear with me a moment and I'll get let's see, here we go. There's the Kalo folder. Okay, so let's see.
Someone's asking if those broadcasts would be like through like a crystal viewer like Atris had, or is there...
I
do you
didn't
know what
say
sort of-
broadcast, I said pictures.
Oh, pictures. Photographs. Okay.
Right.
That were downloaded just like we downloaded.
They had the Kalo Pub has normal viewers in it, so I'm pretty sure that they would have been still slideshows like we have in the neighborhoods. Okay, if you will switch over to the stream window for a moment, I have a picture of a Kamkinta shown from the top. This one is predominantly yellow. And then, but it's not the only color that they came in. Here's one that's predominantly blue. Camkentas lived in a hive. Let's see if we can get this sized properly. That'll do. And this is supposedly what that hive looked, one of the hives looked like. And then they also have a queen. Let's see. And man, do I wish I could see that as an actual 3D model. The age of Kalo itself had the usual cyan aesthetic in that they seem to love to drop giant bones into things.
That reminds me of Captar from Abduction, which is, of course,
And I have no doubt whatsoever that Captar may have been inspired by Kalo. Here's another one, and another set of bones. Another canyon, more bones. Okay. Moving on. The next sequence of paintings is over the tunnel that leads to... Here it is, over here. That leads to the next garden area. These drawings have been a mystery for quite some time, because we have absolutely no idea what these are intended to represent. The BSG called this the Mythical Creatures sequence and said, set of glyphs to the left of the tunnel to the second garden, and set of glyphs to the right of the tunnel to the second garden. So you can tell just how much how good an idea of what they had about what those are meant to be. My own research into these things is also not very, didn't turn up very good results. It may be possible that they are glyphs, that they are representations of non-human autotanti and animals from ages that we are unfamiliar with. The figure on the lower left has 3 digits on each foot and hand, and they are clawed. The figure on the upper right has 2 toed feet, and one hand has 3 fingers while the other has 6. The figure on the far right seems to have humanoid figures inside it, and so may be a manned machine of some sort. On the other hand, these images do share a lot in common with Native American rock art from various locations, especially a style known as animal humans. So the paintings may be influenced by Yisha's travels on the surface. And that isn't too far-fetched an idea, because the same thing happens later in the sequence. Okay, let's continue through to the next area. The trees that are found here are called trooms, but are also known as brain trees, for obvious reasons. And of course, the chemo fireflies are found in the largest grove of the trooms. By the way, the plants that we find over in this area here were called moss willows or ledge vines by the Denis Zoological Society, and are only found here in Eterkemo. Underneath the ledge that the moss vines hang from, or moss willows, is the Age's Maintainer's Mark, which showed that it was inspected and approved by the Guild of Maintainers. At the place where the paths join, there is a carved stone pillar, and if you look at this, on each and every side, we find Yisha's tramp stamp. So that's a total of I believe 5 of them that we find in this garden alone.
Monogram.
Monogram, tramp stamp, potato. Now, speaking of the age of Rebek, as we come over towards the floating sculpture here, the sculpture itself, like many others found in the Empire, was carved out of rock from the age of Rebek, where it occurs naturally and floats naturally. There's no technology involved in keeping that thing off the ground. And if we go behind the sculpture, we find the next baroglyph in the sequence, which is Yisha. The baroglyph study group only said that it depicts Yisha among other unidentified glyphs. To me, this is a Baro depiction of Yisha as the Baro see her. To her left is the volcano, the cleft, and Kurth's arch. The lines and circles attached to the cleft are probably a representation of the part of the Denis tunnel system that leads from the Great Shaft. The bird figure to her right is likely to be there because of her nickname, Desert Bird. The glyphs in the lower right have not been identified. So far, the best guess is that she's been shopping in a Target department store, and that's the bag with her purchases. You may have a better guess.
Well, there is a strip mall on Agura Island. Someone's asking if you know where the floating stones come from. They're from Rebek. Is that what you said?
That's what I said a moment ago. Yes, those are from Rebek, and they float naturally. How you would weigh a floating stone, I have no idea. Actually, let me see if I can find something here. Because I don't know if people have ever seen my. Let's see. Let's see. That would be the Canyon Wall. Okay. If you will all switch to the stream window for a moment. Here's a location on the Canyon Mall you may not have noticed before. Of course, there's always this one. I forget what I wrote on that thing. It's in the description on my website.
Oh my gosh. Cyan's gone commercial.
Of course, I had to throw in one that pretty much every explorer who's ever gone to the cavern has wanted to find. The sign says Etterhernti, which means restrooms.
It looks like they're both. Let's see. Are they both unisex, or is there a man and a woman there? It looks like a man and a woman.
Yes, it is indeed. Here, I'll zoom in on that a bit.
Well, I guess dunny does mean restroom in what, Australia?
Yvonne K. Is saying, I always wonder where the Dene did their business. And I guess she hasn't heard my theory about that. Yvonne, what I say about on that subject is that the reason why we never, I suspect that the reason why we never find restrooms in Dene is because they had special linking books that they used for the purpose. And one of these days, somebody's going to find one of those those special linking books, link through it, and find themselves in an entire world of shit.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, anyway, getting back on track after all that. The next sequence is across and over by the seating area. And this is called the Onone Sequence by the BSG. The first set of glyphs to the right as you enter the circular mesa in the second garden are the four spheres. And that, of course, represents Onone with fish and quabs around it. The black figure may be intended to be Kadish. And then to the next are a set of glyphs to the left, quabs and fish, and a sphere which represents water Onone.
I've never seen a fish or a bird in water Onone. They're
Yeah.
not visible, are they?
I suspect that the fish were intended to be part of the model, but they never did put them in, unfortunately. So the quabs are the only animals there that actually exist in the game model.
So is this vertical squiggly thing? That's that huge waterfall by the control room, right?
Yes, that is correct. That would be the waterfall. That waterfall actually is what provides the power to rotate the spheres. Something that I forgot to mention earlier, but if you look at the gazebos in all of the garden ages, Tsogul, Chemo, and Dellen, you will notice that a lot of them have what looks like that symbol that Kadish uses to represent Onone and the four spheres. There's question as to whether or not that symbol is much older and he actually co-opted and it may have been inspired by it to build Onone the way he did. The reason being is, of course, that Kadish lived just before the fall of Dni, whereas the Garden Ages with their gazebos are much, much older. By a number of centuries, because I believe the Garden Ages were written in the 8200s, whereas I believe that the fall of Dni was around 9600 or something like that. I may be mistaken on that one, but off the top of my head, I think it's somewhere in that vicinity.
For what it's worth, Larry, we have another 18 minutes.
Yes, and which looks like we're not going to get to the other ages that I had lined up, but that'll be next month then. But we will have, of course, time to finish up this. Okay, and then the next section of the garden down the stairs, the main plant here, there are called puffers for reasons that will come as a surprise to absolutely nobody. That's how they spread. They're a type of fungus, like a mushroom, and what they are doing when they puff is spreading spores. That's what you can see shooting out the top. And above the next tunnel is the last bottle-glyph in the sequence.
By the way, I think this barrow here, this is the baby barrow, isn't it? That Murfak is wearing?
No, actually, that's the normal size of all of them. They are actually taller than they look, though, because they walk around in a hunched-over posture with their ankles bent backwards and their knees flexed.
Oh, real quick, Larry, sorry to keep interrupting. Someone inquired about the relief figure on the floor. I think he's referring to that circular area where the Onone drawings were. It's like, I think that represents the Onone sphere, isn't it? With the
Yes.
4 spheres?
Yeah. Okay. And then this last sequence was a very big mystery to a lot of people for a very long time. The BSG, what they said about it was, here you can see people riding horses and hunting. It is highly unlikely that the images are meant to represent this age. The pictographs are identical to glyphs found... Or, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm reading my own notes. What did they... Okay, actually, they didn't have anything really to say about this. They just called it the Puffer Garden sequence. Okay, anyway. It took a bit of time, but somebody finally discovered just what these glyphs are from. These pictographs are identical to rock art found on in a national park in Utah, near Moab, Utah, called the Indian Creek State Park. They're from a place called Newspaper Rock. As a matter of fact, while the order is changed slightly here, the groupings of various symbols are identical. If we go, let's see, where is it? Yeah, here we go. If you look at the stream window, here's a picture of Newspaper Rock. When Yisha left Tomana on her journey of self-discovery, it is known that she wandered for a time on the surface before settling down in the cleft, and then later followed the great shaft down into the caverns. It's entirely possible that Yisha visited Newspaper Rock during her travels and sketched parts of the pictographs that interested her. If so, it would be her sketches that are reproduced here, since the overall arrangement of the petroglyphs do not exactly match the original art. Near this rock art, there is a Drc Notebook that tells the story about the third king of Dni, whose name was Shomat, and how he committed genocide against a Narotan race and murdered his brothers after getting them to do the deed. What Yisha does not tell you is that Shomat later reformed and inaugurated the custom for Dni kings to have spiritual advisors to keep them on the path of morality. It's possible that she intended for explorers to think that this garden is the one mentioned in the notebook, but if so, it's untrue. The events of the story took place in Dni year 387, which would have been 7270 BC. Ederchemo was written approximately 7,000 years later, in Dni century 8200, which was around the 5th century AD. The King Shomat notebook has this to say about him. Shomat took the throne in the year 300 DE at the age of 44. Up to the point of his coronation, he had been a member of the Guild of Writers. He continued his study of the art through private mentors for a number of years after his coronation. It was the lack of proper guild instruction that most historians attribute to the distorted views of Shomat later took on. It was an up-and-down reign, partly due to a tremendous tension that seemed to exist between him and his older brothers. Both of the brothers, though they had little respect, did everything in their power to make Shomat's reign tumultuous. One of the first actions Shomat ordered was the construction of a palace. When completed in 347 DE, Shomat moved in with his family, although his brothers refused and maintained their own homes. Such an act was regarded as a tremendous disrespect to a family and only served to widen the gap between Shomat and his brothers. Furthering tensions not only within Shomat's family, but also within the culture, was the lavishness of the palace. Ornate gardens were present inside the physical grounds, and garden ages were written as well, linking from within the palace. Rumors abounded that some of these garden ages were even wiped of their inhabitants in order to provide Shomat with relaxation. Whether true or not, Shomat often spoke publicly about the need for ages to serve Dni. This was a first for the society and a direct contradiction to what the guilds had taught. The Dni were to serve the ages. It seems that eventually the tension became too much. Some say it drove Shomat mad. In 387, both his brothers disappeared and were never found again. It was commonly presumed that Shomat wrote a death book to which both of his brothers were linked, although it could never be proven. Regardless, it was one of the first major challenges for the people of Dni, and they reacted quickly. A prophetess was supplied to Shomat in 400 in an attempt to guide him in the ways of Yavo. For the 155 remaining years of his reign, it seems that most people believe Shomat became a better king. The prophetess became an excellent mentor for Shomat and eventually convinced him to choose the son of one of his close friends as the heir to the throne. His own children were admittedly out of control. As it turned out, it was the bloodline of that child that led to the birth of the great king years later. Shomat died of natural causes at the age of 299. Jamie's asking, how long do Denis live? And the answer is normally between about 200 to 350. But of course, there's people who have lived shorter lives and those who have lived longer. But if you figure upwards of 300 years as being average, then the Shomat did live a fairly average lifetime for a Denis. Okay, and then moving on to the last section of the garden. Oops. I thought I was going to drop down. Okay. How do we get down? How do we get down? Yeah, Murphac pulled a trick on me that I wasn't expecting. If you can let us down to the ground now, Murphac, let's get into the pond area.
I don't even see Mirabat in the Age anymore. Am I missing something?
I had another net 6.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That explains it.
So we're going to be he's having to Murphac is having to reboot the bot, so it'll be a few minutes before we can move on. In that case, while we're waiting, the last environmental zone contains water lilies, cattails, lichen, and a plant I don't know. The rainbow-colored fish found in the pond there are called chemo, and it is for them that this age is named. Underneath the stone arch that goes across the pond, there is the book that contains the Baro stone that links you to Edergura. And if you've never noticed before, that room is directly below the place where we link in. So when you go there and link out, you have made a full circle.
Just FYI, your Utah thing is still up on Twitch.
Ah, let's see. Excuse me. Of course, it's not like we can see anything at the moment much because we're stuck. Okay. There we go. Now we are down. And where is the tunnel? There it is. Oops. He'll get everything sorted out shortly.
Well, what I will announce, if I may, Larry, is our
Mhm.
next Cavern Tour will be Saturday, the second Saturday of April, which is April 10th, the usual time from 11 a.m. key time to 1 p.m. key time. And as far as other events go, it looks like at 1400 today, it's going to be Arte's Story Night in Sonos Hood, TSAHNO, Sonos Hood. He also repeats Story Night at 23:30 key time. And then at 1600 is the karaoke party in the new Guild of Messengers
Okay.
Club.
If everyone, if you PM the letter W to the bot, you'll get out of that tunnel. Or you can use Find Larry as well. Okay. Anyway, and while we're waiting for all of that, by the way, there are a number of plants that have been tentatively identified in the garden besides the lilies and such that I mentioned. The list includes plants called rainbow ferns, which were named by the Denise Zoological Society, common purslane, crassula or jade plant. I mentioned the moss willows earlier. And there are two main types of ground cover in the grass and moss. The grass, if I remember correctly, is a type of bluegrass. Goodbye, Duncan Fletcher, who is leaving us. Now, we have one last trick to show you if you can stick around for a little longer. We're going to try and take ourselves down to fish level so that you can take some close-up photos of them. So hopefully Murphac will have that sorted out soon, because it was a pre-planned effect that we were going to try for. Okay, now I wasn't really listening very well. You mentioned, Susan, you mentioned the story night and the karaoke events, right?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, story night was canceled. Arte just wrote that.
Oh, okay. I'm presuming he's referring to the 1400. Is it also the 23:30, Minasunda? Do you happen to know? Okay, apparently both. Okay, I'm sorry, Minasunda. Is it just the 1400 or also both, or just the afternoon, Minasunda?
And welcome down to fish level, where you learn how to breathe water very quickly if you want to survive. And say hello to the chemo. They look a little bit like rainbow trout, but not quite. And now that we are down here, this is the formal end of the tour, so I will thank you all very kindly for putting up with all of the usual miscues and glitches that we have, and hope that you all enjoyed yourself. Louisa, if you PM the bot Find Larry, he'll drop you down on top of me. So you'll be down here with us. Are you in third person view or first person? If you switch to first person, that may...
Well, thank you also to Mirfak.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
So-
Larry, you guys would not believe how much work Larry and Mirfak put into these tours. It's really incredible.
Thank you.
Say, the tours are just like a duck. We try to make it look as smooth as possible, but we're paddling like hell underneath.
That's a good analogy.
Goodbye, Darlene.
Goodbye, Mawa. Thanks for coming. Say hi to Rawa for us.
In the meantime, I'll stick around for a few minutes in case anybody has any questions. There should be 3 fish in the pond. They have baseball caps that make it look like a fish is going through your head. This is just the real thing. Now, admittedly, those fish are big enough to where if we caught all 3 of them, they'd feed the lot of us for after a good frying. Oh, that's interesting. Something I never noticed before is that the fish don't swim on the same level. They go up and down a bit. Or at least one of them does, anyway. Carol, that's something that you'll find typical of science work, is that they will put details in places that they don't even expect people to see. The bottom of these fish are fully modeled. One of the things that that I do whenever we have a tour is I will take you to places that normally people could not get to in the game in order to show you some of the things that are invisible if you just play it normally. There are, to give you an example, on Agra Island, there are entire rooms and staircases that are invisible to people under normal circumstances. Okay, yeah, there's 3 fish, and each one has a set pattern that it follows. That's pretty typical of how they animate animals in this game, is that they put them on tracks. Frobos, are you talking about the capacity for the guild pubs? The Watcher's Pub had been what happened is that back when they first launched the Fan Ages, and people were gathering in the Watcher's Pub for the event, it attracted many more people than had been expected, and so they kept upping the capacity for the room until it finally hit 150, and then it's 500 now. Oh, okay. So they got that I hadn't noticed. So that the Agra Island went from up to 150. I wonder if there's a reason for that. If something may be coming up that might they suspect might cause them to need more capacity. The reason why they kept it at 50, by the way, is because of the lag that's caused when you get lots of people into the same area. They went up to 500 on the Guild Pub and on the Watcher's Pub, and if you didn't have a really hot video card, the lag in that place was absolutely horrid. By the way, you don't have to stay down here anymore. The Mirrobot's commands should all be available to you now, so you can do whatever you want. I have a feeling that... Here, let me try going to him and... okay, no, he's down here too. But it looks like Murphak is playing around with the environment, so... let's see... there we are, I'm up on the surface. Okay. Holy cow, this looks strange. Find Larry to come back up to me, and then take a look at what he's done. Let's see. Ah. We're in a box. So if I walk one... This is actually rather attractive out here in a weird sort of way. Actually, you're right, Tiki Bear. This Myst probably would make a good Rialto page. Okay, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream at this point.